You open your eyes, not to the familiar glow of your bedside lamp, but to a vast, inky blackness that slowly, almost reluctantly, begins to recede. A whisper of cool air caresses your cheek, carrying with it the faint, earthy scent of damp clay and something subtly metallic like distant rain on hot stone. Above you, a ceiling of rough-hewn timbers stretches into the gloom, crisscrossed by shadows cast by an unseen flicker. It draws your attention to the center of the room, where a large cylindrical clay pot sits on a slightly raised plinth. The dust motes, once a shimmering cascade, now appear to swirl with a slightly increased urgency, as if catching a new, subtle current of air. You notice the surface of the water in the upper vessel. The chamber, once an undifferentiated expanse of shadow, now reveals more of its simple details. There's a small, low table crafted from a thick slab of wood, its surface scarred by countless years of use, perhaps for kneading dough or grinding grain. It's a comforting aroma, a primal scent of home and sustenance that transcends the vast chasm of time separating you from this ancient world. You can almost feel a gentle warmth radiating from beyond the walls, hinting at a hearth fire being stoked, a family stirring to life. Historians still debate whether these early water clocks were primarily used for religious ceremonies or for everyday civic purposes, or perhaps a blend of both. It's a curious little mystery, isn't it? Like trying to figure out if your neighbor's excessively loud lawnmower is for landscaping or just for artistic expression. Near it, leaning against the wall, are a few clay pots, larger than the water clock, likely for storing water or dry goods. You notice, upon closer inspection, a series of faint, incised lines on the inner wall of the upper pot, almost at the level of the water. These would be the markings, then, the ancient equivalent of our lines, meticulously etched to indicate the passage of specific units of time. Each mark a silent testament to the human desire to quantify, to understand, to control the elusive flow of moments. It's a rather elegant solution, really, far less prone to existential crises than staring at a blank wall and wondering how much time has passed. The Mesopotamians, with their ingenious water clocks, managed to tame the night, making it measurable and, in a way, predictable. A rather impressive feat, you must admit, for a people who didn't even have a decent streaming service. Their surfaces are unglazed, porous, and bear the smudges and fingerprints of generations of hands. You can almost feel the cool, granular texture of the clay beneath your own fingers, a connection across millennia. Everything in this room speaks of practicality, of a life lived close to the earth, where every object served a purpose, unlike that drawer in your kitchen filled with orphaned socks and expired coupons. It appears to have lowered by a fractional amount, almost imperceptible to the casual glance. But there's a subtle ring of dried residue just above the current waterline, a ghost of its previous fullness. It's a testament to the slow, steady drip, the relentless, yet entirely peaceful erosion of time itself. This isn't a digital readout, shouting numbers at you. It's a living, breathing testament to the physical properties of water and gravity. A humble but ingenious device that allowed the people of ancient Mesopotamia to grasp something as abstract as time. Imagine the patience required to observe such a subtle change, day after day, year after year. It's enough to make you consider taking up knitting, or perhaps competitive napping. The single beam of light from the high slit in the wall, which was once a faint pencil line, has broadened ever so slightly, its edges softening, hinting at the gradual ascent of the unseen sun outside. The air, though still cool, seems to have lost some of its initial dampness, replaced by a drier, almost powdery feel like the fine dust that settles on forgotten things. Its steady drip would have punctuated the rhythm of conversations, the clatter of pottery, the soft hum of domestic chores. It would have marked the time for meals, for rest, for the beginning and end of the working day. Before the invention of these water clocks, time was largely measured by the sun's position, by the length of shadows, or by the simple, unreliable passage of human memory. But how do you measure the progress of the night when the moon is hidden behind clouds, or in the deep, dark interior of a windowless temple? This, you understand, was the major historical fact of the hour. The Mesopotamians, needing more precise nocturnal measurements, developed a water clock, or clepsydra, as early as the 16th century BCE, perhaps even earlier. They were, in essence, the original timekeepers of the night shift. You can almost taste the dryness, a mineral tang on your tongue. It's a subtle shift, barely perceptible, but it speaks volumes about the slow, deliberate march of the day in this ancient world. A world where time wasn't chopped into neat digital segments, but flowed like the river outside the city walls. No sudden alarm clocks here, no blaring notifications, just the patient unfolding of light and shadow. Imagine trying to explain Wi-Fi to these folks. They'd probably just offer you more water. Water, clear and shimmering even in the dim light, slowly overflows from a small spout near its base, collecting in a smaller basin beneath. This is it then. Your introduction to the ancient world, not with a trumpet blast or a thundering chariot, but with the gentle, persistent murmur of a simple water clock. It's a humble beginning, perhaps, for a journey into the heart of Mesopotamia. But then again, isn't that the beauty of it? The most profound things often arrive in the quietest guises. You find yourself leaning into the sound, letting it wash over you, a lullaby whispered across millennia. Before you drift off entirely, do gently consider tapping that like button. It truly helps this little corner of YouTube keep flowing, just like this tranquil stream of time we're observing. And if you're feeling particularly well-rested, a subscription would be a truly grand gesture. Finally, as you settle in, perhaps share in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to imagine us all, scattered across the globe, united by this quiet moment. Now, let's ease into tonight's journey, letting the gentle passage of time carry us deeper into the cradle of civilization. You hear it now, a soft, rhythmic drip, drip, like a heartbeat echoing in a forgotten chamber. This isn't your room, is it? No, this is somewhere else, somewhere ancient, somewhere deep. The air hums with a quiet stillness, broken only by that persistent hypnotic sound of falling water. You feel a curious weight to the silence, a profound quiet that modern life rarely affords. It is the kind of quiet where you can almost hear the dust motes dancing in the nascent light. The kind of quiet that invites contemplation, or perhaps a very peaceful slumber. You stir, your limbs feeling heavy, wonderfully heavy, as if you've just emerged from a long, satisfying dream. A rough, woven mat provides a surprisingly comfortable cushion beneath you. As your eyes adjust, faint outlines emerge from the shadows. You're in a chamber, yes, but not a grand one. More like a small, enclosed space, perhaps a storage room, or a very, very humble dwelling. The walls are not smooth plaster, but sun-baked mud brick, their surfaces uneven, bearing the faint impressions of straw or reeds. The only light enters through a small, high opening, a slit in the wall that casts a narrow, dusty beam across the floor. This single shaft of light illuminates specks of dust, dancing like miniature stars in a forgotten galaxy. It's a subtle light, gentle on the eyes, utterly unlike the harsh, sudden glare of your phone screen. You might, just might, find yourself drifting off before the sun even fully crests the horizon in this world. And let's be honest, you probably want to make it through this day if you don't manage to catch a few more winks. The rhythmic dripping continues, a steady metronome in the silence. You begin to notice the subtle changes in the light. The gentle gurgle of the water clock continues its soft cadence, a constant reminder of the unseen passage of minutes, then hours. You shift your weight, the rough mat rustling softly beneath you. You realize, with a drowsy certainty, that the water clock is not merely a scientific instrument. It's a companion, a silent observer of daily life. There's a faint, almost imperceptible scent wafting into the chamber now, a mix of wood smoke and something savory, perhaps baking bread. The water clock continues its patient work, its surface still and reflective, mirroring the faint light that now fills more of the chamber. The aroma of baking bread strengthens, a warm, yeasty invitation that teases your senses and subtly overrides the cooler, earthier smell of the clay. You hear now, not just the drip of the water clock, but a very faint murmur from beyond the walls, a soft, indistinct murmur of voices. They are low and calm, the kind of voices that speak of daily routines, of familiar tasks, not of urgency or alarm. Up close, you can see the faint, almost ghostly etchings on the inside of the upper vessel more clearly. You lean closer, fascinated by the tiny ripples that form where each drop breaks the surface of the lower basin. Concentric circles expanding and fading, mirroring the ripples of time itself. You wonder about the person who crafted this specific clock, their hands shaping the clay, their mind contemplating the flow of time. Was it a priest in a grand temple, seeking to precisely time sacred rituals? Perhaps someone is preparing a morning meal, or maybe it's just the natural fragrance of the sun warming the surrounding landscape. The material feels solid, grounded, a product of the very earth beneath your feet. It's a stark contrast to the sleek, ephemeral plastics and metals of your own time, which often feel disconnected from their origins. Perhaps a small offering, a dried flower, or a token to honor the passage of time itself. The rhythmic drip, drip, drip of the water clock has become so ingrained in your senses that it no longer registers as a separate sound, but as a fundamental part of the quiet atmosphere, a soothing, consistent pulse. You feel a profound sense of peace settling over you, a calm that comes from observing the gentle flow of time without judgment or demand, simply existing within its quiet current. It's a feeling that makes you want to curl up right there on the mat and just lay. It's a tiny, obscure detail, easily missed, but it speaks volumes about the reverence with which these ancient people approached the natural rhythms of their world, even something as seemingly mundane as measuring the hours. It's a subtle reminder that for many ancient cultures, the line between the practical and the spiritual was often blurred, a fluidity that we in our hyper-rationalized world sometimes struggle to comprehend. Historians still debate the exact religious significance of these imprints, some suggesting they were offerings to specific deities associated with time or water. This pot, you realize, was likely made by hand, shaped by someone whose skill was honed over years of practice, whose knowledge of clay and fire was passed down through generations. It's a piece of ancient craftsmanship, as functional as it is humble, and it possesses a quiet dignity that resonates deeply. You can almost feel the residual warmth of the ancient artisan's hands. The water clock, that constant, comforting presence, continues its tireless work, but also creating a system that could be easily replicated and understood across different locations and by different individuals. Imagine trying to coordinate a temple ritual or a market opening across multiple cities without a standardized way of telling time. This standardization, the ability to create consistently accurate water clocks, was a significant leap forward in organizational capability, allowing for more complex societal structures and coordinated activities. It's the ancient equivalent of everyone agreeing on daylight savings time, except with less grumbling. The water in the upper vessel has noticeably receded further, exposing another one of those faint etched lines. You watch as a single perfectly formed droplet detaches from the spout, glistening for a brief moment in the filtered light before it falls. A tiny crystal sphere, to break the surface of the lower basin with a soft, almost inaudible plink. Or a royal administrator needing to track the shifts of guards or the duration of labor. Historians generally agree that the earliest Mesopotamian water clocks were likely used in religious contexts, often associated with nocturnal observations and astrological calculations. It makes sense. Who else would be awake at 3 a.m. to figure out if the moon was correctly aligned for next week's harvest festival? They are not elaborate, no ornate carvings or intricate designs, but simple, vertical lines, perhaps 10 or 12 of them, spaced at seemingly equal intervals. So, while the water clock gave them granular precision, the stars provided the grand overarching narrative of the nocturnal hours. You can distinguish the soft clatter of what sounds like pottery, the shuffling of feet, and the very occasional muffled bleat of a distant goat. It's the soundtrack of a simple agrarian society beginning its day, a symphony of daily tasks that has echoed through human history for millennia. You imagine people moving with an unhurried grace, their actions deliberate, unburdened by the relentless pace that often defines modern life. No one here is checking their email or stuck in rush hour traffic, thank the gods. It's a beautiful fusion of practical engineering and cosmic observation, a world where the sacred and the scientific were not separate, but intertwined, unlike our modern world where your smart device can tell you the exact time, but probably won't tell you if Orion is judging your life choices. This is where the true ingenuity lies, each line representing a specific unit of time. Adana, perhaps, an ancient Mesopotamian measure roughly equivalent to 2 of our modern hours. Imagine the careful measurements, the patient observation, required to mark these lines accurately. It wasn't a matter of simply dividing the pot. The rate of water flow changes as the pressure in the vessel decreases. A true ancient engineer would have had to account for that, creating lines that compensated for the slowing drip. It is a level of practical science that often gets overlooked when we consider ancient civilizations, whose technological advancements often surprise us with their sophistication. They were basically coding with clay and water. Perhaps a family is beginning its day, their morning rituals unfolding around the silent passage of the water clock in your humble chamber. You can almost picture them, moving with quiet purpose, their movements dictated not by the relentless ticking of a clock, but by the natural rhythms of life and the simple, enduring needs of life. It's a stark contrast to the modern morning rush, where coffee machines hiss like angry dragons and alarm clocks shriek their digital demands. You push yourself up, slowly, your muscles protesting just a little, like a well-loved but rarely used antique. The woven mat leaves faint crisscross patterns on your skin, a temporary tattoo of ancient comfort. The chamber, no longer shrouded in deep shadow, is now bathed in a soft diffuse light, the single beam from the high slit having broadened further, no longer a sharp line, but a gentle wash across the rough mud brick floor. You can see the texture of the bricks now, the individual grains of sand and straw embedded in the hardened clay, the subtle variations in color from ochre to a deeper, richer brown. It's a tactile world, this one, where you can almost feel the history embedded in every surface, unlike the smooth, anonymous perfection of modern manufactured goods. You move towards the water clock, drawn by its quiet presence. The water continues its unhurried descent, its surface now reflecting the subtle warmth that seems to seep through the walls. An obscure cultural tidbit floats into your drowsy mind. The Mesopotamians often associated specific constellations with different periods of the night, using them as celestial markers of time. As the day gradually brightens outside, evidenced by the increasing warmth and the gentle golden hue now filtering into the chamber, the quiet hum of activity beyond the walls becomes a little clearer. You draw a slow, deep breath, and the air, though still carrying the scent of clay and earth, now has a faint, sweet overlay, almost like honey or dried figs. You reach out, your fingers tracing the rough, cool surface of the clay pot that houses the water clock. The main challenge for ancient Mesopotamian timekeepers, you muse, was not just making the water flow at a consistent rate. You notice a peculiar detail on the plinth beneath the water clock, a small, almost imperceptible discoloration on the clay, as if something was once placed there regularly, leaving a faint imprint. The sun continues its slow climb, and the chamber brightens further, revealing the fine layer of dust that coats every surface, shimmering in the shafts of light like a million tiny diamonds. The morning light, now a fuller, richer gold, spills into the chamber, illuminating the subtle textures of the mud brick walls and casting longer, softer shadows across the floor. You can discern the faint striations where the mud was smoothed by hand, perhaps even the occasional thumbprint left by a long-dead artisan, a tangible connection to a forgotten touch. The air, warm and dry now, carries the subtle scent of sun-baked earth, a deeply grounding aroma that evokes images of vast, open landscapes and ancient civilizations rising from the dust. Your eyes are drawn once again to the water clock, its upper vessel now visibly less full, the water level having dipped below another etched mark. The challenge, of course, was ensuring a constant rate of flow and narrowing towards the bottom, specifically to counteract the decreasing pressure and maintain a more consistent rate of flow. The dust motes, once shimmering in distinct beams, now seemed to dance universally in the brighter air, a gentle, almost hypnotic swirl. The warmth in the room is palpable, a comfortable, earthy heat that seems to rise from the very mud bricks themselves, reminding you of the strength and resilience of sun-baked earth. The surface of the water here is perfectly still, a dark, reflective mirror that captures the faint light from the slit above. How did they ensure that two different clocks, perhaps in different cities, measured the same dana? This standardization was likely achieved through empirical observation, perhaps by comparing them against the sun's passage during specific equinoxes or solstices, or by using a master clock. You feel your own breath slowing, deepening, matching the unhurried pace of this ancient day. The air carries a subtle, sweet fragrance now, perhaps from blooming plants outside or offerings laid at a distant shrine. It's a calming presence, a soft embrace from a world that understood the profound beauty of patience, the quiet power of a slow, deliberate rhythm. You could almost feel yourself drifting, a quiet observer in a world measured by water and sun. A major historical fact. The standardization of timekeeping instruments was crucial for coordinating large-scale projects, like the construction of ziggurats or the organization of irrigation systems, which required synchronized labor across vast distances. Imagine trying to build a pyramid if everyone had their own personal, wildly inaccurate notion of noon. It's a quiet pool, a reservoir of measured time, each drop a tiny victory over the formless expanse of the unknown. So, they weren't just watching the water. They were also occasionally craning their necks to check if Jupiter was in the right place, essentially double-checking their work with celestial bodies. It's like checking your phone against the old grandfather clock in the hall, just in case. Historians are still unsure about the exact methods of daily recalibration or how often they needed to be performed, leaving us with a delightful little puzzle about their maintenance routines. You notice a faint, almost invisible film on the surface, a delicate sheen that hints at the minerals carried by the water, or perhaps just the subtle touch of dust settling over countless hours. It's a small, beautiful detail, easily overlooked, but it adds to the sense of living history. It is the kind of warmth that makes you want to stretch out and simply absorb the quiet energy of the space. This intricate shaping demonstrates a deep understanding of fluid dynamics, a knowledge gained through centuries of empirical observation and practical application. You can now clearly distinguish the distant chatter of children's voices, high-pitched and joyful, punctuated by the occasional bark of a dog. There's the unmistakable rhythmic thud of a loom, the shuttle moving back and forth, a steady pulse of creation. These are the sounds of a community alive, thriving, their lives unfolding in harmony with the gentle, persistent drip of the water clock within the chamber. It's a stark contrast to the often jarring, disjointed cacophony of modern urban environments, where every sound seems to compete for your attention. Imagine the trial and error involved in perfecting such a design. Each broken pot, a lesson learned. Each successful clock, a triumph of ancient engineering. Historians still debate the exact materials used for the outflow spouts, whether bronze, reed, or simply shaped clay, and how they maintained their integrity over long periods of continuous use. It is a bit like trying to figure out what ancient Mesopotamians used for their equivalent of superglue. As the water level dropped, the pressure would decrease, and the flow would naturally slow down. This is where the true brilliance of the Mesopotamian engineers shone. They didn't simply punch a hole. They precisely calibrated the size of the hole, and sometimes the shape of the vessel itself, to ensure a relatively consistent drip over a specific period. It's a subtle but crucial detail that elevates these simple pots to sophisticated instruments, far more complex than just poking a hole in a bucket and calling it a day. It's a silent, relentless march, this measurement of time, yet it feels entirely natural, a process woven into the very fabric of the environment. Unlike the hurried glance at a wristwatch, this method of timekeeping invites a more profound engagement, a patient observation that connects you to the natural world and its rhythms. You almost expect it to sigh contentedly as it completes another dana. It's a smell that probably makes you want to take a nap in a sunbeam, like a very contented cat. The sounds from beyond the walls have grown slightly louder, more distinct. You can now hear the distant, rhythmic pounding of a mortar and pestle, perhaps someone preparing spices or grains for the day's meals. Interspersed with this is the soft, rhythmic sweeping sound, as if someone is cleaning a nearby courtyard with a brush made of reeds. These are the sounds of daily life, unhurried and consistent, a gentle counterpoint to the steady drip of the water clock. It highlights the profound simplicity of existence in this era, where time was measured not by deadlines or digital alerts, but by the tangible necessities of survival and community. You rise, feeling a subtle stiffness in your limbs that quickly dissipates as you move. The ingenious design of these early water clocks often involved a small hole at the bottom, through which water slowly drained. An obscure cultural tidbit. Some Mesopotamian water clocks were designed with conical interiors. Wider at the top, the chamber is now fully bathed in the soft, diffused light of mid-morning, the single high slit acting like a natural spotlight on the water clock. The sounds from outside have coalesced into a gentle chorus of daily activity. You find yourself drawn to the small lower basin beneath the main water clock, where the precious droplets collect. The greatest challenge in designing and using these early water clocks was calibration. An obscure cultural tidbit that might make you chuckle. Some scholars believe that the Mesopotamians may have used specific star patterns as a rudimentary night clock to verify the accuracy of their water clocks over long nocturnal periods. The gentle warmth in the room, combined with the rhythmic drip and the soft background sounds, creates an almost meditative atmosphere. The sunlight continues to mature, shifting from a soft gold to a brighter, more direct illumination that pours through the high slit, painting a sharp rectangle of light on the chamber floor. Within this bright rectangle, you can see individual dust motes swirling with a newfound vivacity, catching the light like microscopic diamonds. The rhythmic thump of the loom is accompanied by the soft, repetitive sound of grinding grain, a steady, almost hypnotic rasp that speaks of tireless labor and the preparation of sustenance. Each exposed line is a silent milestone, a testament to the continuous, unyielding flow of time. It's a remarkable thing, this simple pot, acting as a portal to understanding how an entire civilization organized its day, its rituals, its very existence around such a humble yet profound instrument. But sometimes as cyclical, tied to the predictable patterns of the seasons, the floods of the rivers, and the movements of celestial bodies. This cyclical view of time might have influenced how they perceived the repetitive, endless drip of the water clock, not as a countdown to an end, but as a perpetual, reassuring return. The dust motes, caught in the direct light, sparkle like microscopic galaxies, creating a mesmerizing, almost ethereal effect. The air is dry and warm, carrying a faint, pleasant scent of sun-baked earth, mixed with the lingering, savory aroma of cooking, perhaps from nearby homes. The exposed lines on the inside of the upper vessel are now more numerous, clearly defining the passage of several dana. The water in the lower basin has deepened considerably, a quiet testament to the tireless, constant work of the device. It's fascinating how such a simple mechanism, relying only on gravity and the properties of water, could serve such a fundamental role in organizing a complex society. The rhythmic drip of the water clock has settled into a gentle background hum, a constant, reassuring presence that grounds you in this ancient world. You feel a profound sense of continuity, a quiet understanding that despite the vast gulf of centuries, the fundamental rhythms of human life, the need for order, for sustenance, for connection, remain unchanged. It's a remarkably peaceful realization, one that makes the prospect of a quiet, undisturbed nap seem incredibly appealing. It's almost elegant in its simplicity, certainly less prone to system crashes than your average computer. It's a truly elemental environment, stripped bare of modern complexities. The precision offered by the clepsydra allowed them to track the movements of planets and stars with unprecedented accuracy, leading to the development of sophisticated calendars and astrological predictions. It's as if they were not just measuring time, but also engaging in a continuous dialogue with the divine forces that governed its flow. Imagine pausing your scientific observation to offer a quick prayer to the god of punctual drips. Historians are still piecing together the full extent of the ceremonial usage of water clocks, and whether certain types of clocks were reserved exclusively for sacred purposes. It's a nice thought that even the most practical inventions could be imbued with spiritual significance. This was crucial for agricultural planning, religious festivals, and even royal pronouncements. Their nightly vigils, punctuated by the steady drip of the water clock, were the ancient world's equivalent of mission control. Historians still debate the exact nuances of their philosophical understanding of time, and whether it varied significantly between different social classes or religious sects. It's a question that makes you ponder the very nature of existence, or at least, the wisdom of ancient calendar designers. Imagine setting your schedule by watching a pot drain. It certainly puts your digital calendar to shame, doesn't it? The rhythmic drip, now a consistent, almost subconscious presence, continues its patient work, inviting you to simply be, to exist in the moment, unburdened by the usual pressures of schedules and deadlines. It's a profound feeling of timelessness, ironically brought about by the very act of observing time. The steady rhythm of grinding continues, punctuated by the occasional clang of metal, perhaps a distant blacksmith at work. You hear the distinct bleating of goats and sheep, closer now, as if a herd is being moved through a nearby street. And more distinctly, the constant hum of human conversation, a murmur of many voices, rising and falling like the tide. It's a world teeming with life, a symphony of ancient human endeavor, reminding you that even without Wi-Fi, people somehow manage to be quite productive. You could almost feel the weight of centuries settling around you, comforting, like a heavy, familiar blanket. Though, honestly, you probably wouldn't miss those meeting reminders. You can hear the distant, high-pitched bleating of a flock of sheep, a sound that carries far in the still, hot air. These are the sounds of life, pure and unadorned, the basic rhythms of a civilization deeply connected to its agricultural roots. It's a symphony of survival, far removed from the electronic hum and artificial noises of your own time. The air is warmer still, a dry, almost arid heat that speaks of vast, sun-baked plains and distant, shimmering mirages. You might even find yourself wishing for a refreshing splash of the water from the lower basin, a thought quickly dismissed as you recall its function. This system greatly influenced their timekeeping, making the division of the day into more manageable, divisible units. This sophisticated mathematical understanding was a major historical fact that underpinned their ability to create and use precise timekeeping devices like the water clock. They didn't just guess. They calculated, a true feat of ancient intellectual prowess. It is a bit humbling to realize that something as fundamental as the way we measure time today has its roots in these ancient calculations. Long before anyone invented algebra, or, more importantly, the snooze button. The sound from outside are now clearer, more defined. You notice the water in the upper vessel of the clock has dropped further, now revealing a third, or perhaps even a fourth, of the etched lines. The Mesopotamians often used a base 60 numerical system, which is why we still have 60 seconds in a minute and 60 minutes in an hour. An obscure cultural tidbit. Some Mesopotamian texts suggest that time was not always viewed as a linear progression from past to future. The air in the chamber feels thick with ancient history, infused with the quiet dignity of time passing. The sun has climbed higher still, and the light in the chamber is now bright and pervasive, dissolving most of the deep shadows and revealing the full, unvarnished simplicity of the room. The sound from beyond the walls are at their peak now, a vibrant tapestry of daily life. You approach the water clock, observing the continued, steady descent of the water level. A significant historical fact about the practical application of these clocks. Mesopotamian astronomers, or scribes of the heavens, heavily relied on water clocks for their meticulous observations of celestial bodies, especially during the night. An obscure cultural tidbit. Some ancient Babylonian texts describe specific rituals and prayers to deities associated with time, often performed at certain intervals measured by the water clock. The warmth in the chamber is now full and enveloping, a deep, comforting heat that encouraged relaxation. The chamber is now fully bathed in the intense, brilliant light of high noon. The single slit in the wall, which earlier cast a gentle beam, now seems to blaze with an almost blinding intensity, pouring a stark, white rectangle onto the floor. The dust motes, caught in this powerful illumination, don't just dance. They shimmer and swirl with an almost frantic energy, like a miniature blizzard of tiny stars. The air is warm, dry, and utterly still, carrying the baked scent of clay and earth, intensified by the full strength of the sun. At night into precise, equal units, regardless of the changing length of daylight hours throughout the seasons, highlighting its vital role in illuminating the passage of time when the celestial bodies were hidden. It paints a poetic picture of this simple device, quietly working through the darkness, a steady, reliable beacon in a world without electric light. Historians still debate the specific linguistic origins of these poetic epithets and whether they were widely used in everyday speech or primarily in religious texts. The rhythmic thud of the loom might pick up again, perhaps the distant clamor of people returning to work or engaging in social interaction. Only a faint trace of water remains, perhaps just enough for one or two more precious drips before the vessel empties entirely. Unlike mechanical clocks, which could run continuously, emphasizing the sacredness of time's renewal and the continuous cycle of life, it wasn't just a chore. It was potentially a moment of quiet reflection or spiritual connection, a daily recommitment to the rhythms of their world. Historians are still trying to ascertain if there were specific social roles or religious offices dedicated to the maintenance and daily refilling of these important timekeeping devices. It's enough to make you consider if your morning coffee ritual could be elevated to a spiritual practice. The water clock required human intervention to be reset for each new cycle, typically at sunrise or sunset. The rhythmic drip of the water clock, now a slow, almost languid sound as the water dwindles, has become an integral part of the quiet atmosphere. You feel a sense of peaceful satisfaction, a calm derived from simply observing, from being present in this ancient space as time, in its most elemental form, continues its patient, unyielding journey. It's a moment that encourages deep, slow breaths, a quiet sinking into the profound stillness of the past. This meant that while it offered remarkable precision for its era, it was not truly self-sufficient in its continuous measurement of time. This dependence on human labor and observation was a fundamental aspect of its operation, tying it intimately to the daily routines of the people who used it. It is a bit like having a very accurate battery-powered clock that still needs someone to change the batteries every day. The exposed etched lines now stretch almost to the very bottom, a visual timeline of the day's progression. The lower basin, conversely, is nearly full, a clear pool of collected time. It's a quiet triumph of engineering, a simple pot accurately mapping the hours, and it somehow feels more profound than any digital countdown. It makes you wonder if ancient Mesopotamians ever felt the urge to quickly refill it right before a big deadline. You might hear the distinct calls of vendors in a faraway market, their voices carrying on the still air. It's the gentle resurgence of life, the world stirring from its midday slumber, a gradual awakening that mirrors the slow, deliberate pace of the water clock itself. No sudden rush, just a gradual, organic transition, unlike the jarring sound of your own post-lunch work alarm. It's almost like they had ancient marketing slogans, though probably not emblazoned on clay tablets with catchy jingles. Unlike sundials, which measured seasonal hours that varied in length, the water clock provided equinoctial hours, units of time that remained constant. The rhythmic drip of the water clock, though diminished by the overall brightness, remains a steadfast presence, a soothing pulse that grounds you in this ancient moment. The rectangle of light on the floor is no longer stark white, but mellow, its edges blurring slightly as the direct sunlight begins to yield to the broader, diffused glow of the afternoon. The dancing dust motes now seem to drift more serenely, caught in the gentler currents of light. The air remains warm and dry, but there's a subtle shift, a hint of the approaching evening's coolness. You feel a profound sense of connection to the people who once walked these floors, who relied on this very rhythm to navigate their lives. It's a connection forged not through grand monuments, but through the shared simple act of observing the quiet passage of time. This standardization was revolutionary, allowing for consistent scheduling of labor, religious ceremonies, and astronomical observations year-round. It is a bit like switching from a clock that runs faster in summer to one that is always spot on. It's the kind of heat that makes you want to find the nearest patch of shade and simply cease all unnecessary movement. The sounds from beyond the walls, though still present, have mellowed slightly, as if the entire world is taking a collective breath during the midday heat. The grinding sounds are less frequent. The human voice is a little more subdued. Each revealed line marks the passage of a significant portion of the day, a visible countdown to the next phase of daily life. The water in the lower basin is considerably fuller now, a silent reservoir of measured time, each collected drop a testament to precision and patience. It's an oddly satisfying sight, this simple, ancient device diligently performing its task, utterly indifferent to the complexities and anxieties of your own era. It makes you wonder if your smart devices would be so unflappable under similar conditions. There's a persistent, high-pitched hum of insects, perhaps flies drawn by the heat or bees going about their business, a subtle drone that underscores the natural rhythms of this sun-drenched landscape. It's the sound of a world pausing, a quiet interlude before the afternoon's renewed activities, a natural pause that modern life, with its constant demands, rarely allows. Imagine a world where lunch breaks were mandated by the sun, not by a corporate policy. You observe the water clock, its upper vessel now significantly depleted, the water level having dropped to reveal most of the etched lines, perhaps only one or two remaining before it would need refilling. A crucial historical fact about the Mesopotamian water clock is that it allowed for the division of the day, an obscure cultural tidbit that adds a touch of charm. The Mesopotamians sometimes referred to the water clock as the night sun or the moon of the dark hours. The intense, quiet heat of midday pervades the chamber, a heavy blanket of warmth that encouraged stillness. As the sun begins its slow descent, the quality of light within the chamber softens, losing its harsh midday intensity and taking on a warmer, slightly golden hue. The sounds from outside, which had quieted during the midday peak, are slowly beginning to re-emerge with renewed energy. You approach the water clock once more, noting the significantly lowered water level in the upper vessel. One significant limitation of the Mesopotamian water clock, a point often debated by historians, was its reliance on manual refilling. An obscure cultural tidbit. Some scholars theorize that the act of refilling the water clock at the beginning of each cycle might have been accompanied by specific prayers or rituals. The chamber is now imbued with a gentle, fading warmth, a comfortable coolness beginning to seep in from the edges. The light in the chamber is now distinctly amber, a soft, fading glow that bathes the mud brick walls in warm, deep hues of ochre and rust. The stark rectangle from the high slit has elongated, stretching across the floor and beginning to climb the opposite wall, its brilliance softening into a mellow luminescence. The distant grinding has ceased entirely, replaced by the occasional muffled murmur of voices, lower in tone, perhaps families gathering for their evening meal. The upper vessel is almost entirely empty now, a few shimmering droplets clinging precariously to the spout, refusing to let go. The etched lines stretch all the way down, a visual record of a day meticulously measured. This local variation meant that while the core principle was the same, a dana in one city might have been infinitesimally longer or shorter than in another, a charming little quirk in their otherwise meticulous system. Historians still debate how these regional variations impacted trade or large-scale administrative coordination, and whether specific agreements were made to standardize time for intercity relations. It's like everyone in your country agreeing on time zones, but then everyone in your neighborhood decides to set their clocks 5 minutes fast, just for fun. The lower basin, however, is now almost entirely full, a clear, silent pool reflecting the last vestiges of the fading light. The upper vessel is completely empty, its smooth, inner surface dry save for the faint etched lines that still bear witness to its day's work. Priests and scribes would use the precise time provided by the clepsydra to track the movements of stars and planets, making accurate predictions about celestial events. This combination of terrestrial technology and celestial observation allowed them to develop a sophisticated understanding of the cosmos, which influenced everything from religious prophecy to agricultural planning. The absence of the water clock strip creates a vacuum, a deeper quiet that allows the gentle sounds of the ancient world to emerge more clearly. You feel a deep sense of peace, a quiet calm that settles over you as the day's journey comes to its quiet conclusion. It's a feeling of timelessness, of being suspended in the vast, unhurried flow of history, a perfect moment to simply rest, to let go, and to drift into the quiet embrace of sleep. They were essentially stargazers with very good timing. The lower basin, however, is brimming with water, a dark, still pool, a quiet repository of the day's measured moments. The cycle is complete. This silence, after hours of rhythmic dripping, feels almost profound, a testament to the passage of an entire day within this ancient world. It's a moment of quiet accomplishment, a feeling that your own internal clock has somehow realigned itself with the rhythms of antiquity. The rhythmic drip of the water clock has slowed to an almost imperceptible trickle, then a final, lingering plop. The silence that follows is profound, a deep, resonant quiet that speaks of a day completed, a cycle fulfilled. may have been intricately decorated with cosmological symbols or images of deities associated with time and destiny. These embellishments would have elevated the utilitarian object to a sacred artifact, a focal point for spiritual contemplation. Historians still debate the extent to which these decorations were standardized or varied between different temples or cities. It's almost like they treated their timepieces as works of art, which, when you think about it, is a pretty beautiful concept. Unlike your purely functional digital watch, you feel a quiet satisfaction, a peaceful understanding that comes from having witnessed, in miniature, the ancient rhythm of time. It's a moment that invites you to close your eyes, to simply rest in the quiet ebb of the day. It's a poignant sight, this simple pot having faithfully performed its duty, marking the relentless, yet entirely natural passage of time. The rectangular patch of light has vanished entirely, leaving only a diffuse glow that softens the edges of the mud brick walls, making them appear ancient and venerable, almost like the walls of a dream. The air is cool now, carrying the crisp, clean scent of the evening, perhaps mixed with the faint, sweet perfume of night-blooming jasmine or the earthy smell of damp soil after a long, hot day. It's a profound shift, signaling the quiet dominion of night. It makes you wonder if anyone ever felt a twinge of sadness when the day's measure was complete, or if they simply moved on to refilling it, eager for the next cycle. The distant human murmurs are gone, replaced by the rhythmic chirping of crickets, a steady, pulsing chorus that seems to vibrate with the very essence of the darkness. You might hear the soft rustle of unseen creatures moving through the dry grasses, or the gentle sigh of the wind whispering through distant date palm fronds. It's the peaceful symphony of the nocturnal world, a soundscape that encourages introspection and quiet contemplation, a far cry from the artificial hum of streetlights and electronics that often accompanies modern nights. You might hear the distant drowsy cooing of doves settling down for the night, or the soft rustle of reeds in a gentle breeze. This means it was based on both the cycles of the moon and the sun, with months tied to lunar phases and an extra month occasionally added to keep it aligned with the solar year and the agricultural seasons. The precision of their water clocks helped them reconcile these two different celestial rhythms, allowing for accurate predictions of festivals, agricultural cycles, and astronomical events. Imagine trying to explain leap years to someone whose primary timekeeping device is a leaky pot. It's the gentle lullaby of an ancient evening, a gradual easing into rest after a day of labor and life. It's a stark contrast to the modern evening, often punctuated by the relentless blue light of screens and the buzz of endless notifications. The dancing dust motes, once so vibrant, now appear to float languidly, caught in the slowing currents of the evening air. There's a subtle chill beginning to creep into the room, a whispered promise of the approaching night, a feeling that encourages a gentle sigh of contentment. The sounds from outside have shifted once more, growing quieter, more subdued as the daily activities wind down. You stand by the water clock, observing its final, slow moments. A significant historical fact about the Mesopotamian calendar, intricately linked to their timekeeping, is that it was primarily a lunisolar calendar. An obscure cultural tidbit. Some Mesopotamian cities developed their own slightly different variations of water clocks or measuring techniques, leading to minor discrepancies in timekeeping between regions. The chamber is now wrapped in the soft, contemplative light of dusk, a gentle coolness settling in. The light in the chamber has now faded to a deep twilight, a soft, velvety blue that hints at the vast, star-strewn canvas gathering beyond the unseen roof. The sounds from outside have dwindled to a gentle hush. You stand before the water clock, now utterly silent. A major historical fact to consider at this quiet hour: the Mesopotamians often used their water clocks in conjunction with astronomical observations, particularly at night. An obscure cultural tidbit that adds a touch of mystery. Some theories suggest that certain water clocks, particularly those used in temple complexes, The chamber is now steeped in the cool, profound silence of night. The chamber is now enveloped in a deep, inky blackness, broken only by the faint, diffuse starlight filtering through the high slit in the wall, painting the dust-filled air with a subtle, almost imperceptible glow. The air is cool, carrying the fresh, clean scent of the night, perhaps a hint of damp earth from the cooling ground outside. Every now and then, you might hear the soft rustle of a nocturnal animal moving through the underbrush, or the almost imperceptible whisper of the wind stirring dry leaves. It's the lullaby of the ancient world, a soundscape that encouraged the mind to quiet, to let go of the day's worries, and to simply exist in the vast, unhurried expanse of the night. It's plausible that the sound helped keep watchmen alert, yet calm, a gentle anchor in the vast stillness of the night. Historians still debate the extent of this psychological impact, and whether it was an intentional design element or merely a beneficial side effect. It is a bit like finding out your favorite sleep app was actually designed by an ancient potter, which, frankly, wouldn't surprise you at this point. You wouldn't find a single car horn here, which, let's be honest, is a welcome change. Soon, it will be refilled, its patient work beginning anew, marking another cycle of hours and minutes for the ancient world. Major historical fact: the precise measurement of time by water clocks was essential for determining the correct dates and times for religious festivals. A watchman might not just note the water level, but also glance at the sky to verify the passage of a star watch, reinforcing the celestial connection to their terrestrial timekeeping. Historians still debate the exact interplay between these two methods of nocturnal timekeeping, whether one was primary and the other supplementary, or if they were used interchangeably, depending on specific needs or conditions. It's like having a digital clock and also regularly checking a sundial, just to be extra sure. Sacrifices and astrological observations ensuring that ceremonies were performed at the most propitious moments according to the gods. The accuracy of these timings was believed to be vital for maintaining divine favor and the prosperity of the city-state. Imagine the pressure of being the person in charge of making sure the gods weren't kept waiting for their sacrifices, all based on a leaky pot. This daily act of refilling, of restarting the flow of time, must have been a simple yet profound ritual, a recognition of the cyclical nature of existence and the renewed opportunity each day presented. It's a humbling thought, how much trust they placed in such a simple mechanism to structure their lives. The subtle sounds of the awakening world, combined with the quiet presence of the water clock, create an atmosphere of profound peace and expectation. You feel a gentle awakening within yourself, a sense of quiet renewal, as if your own rhythms are aligning with the ancient pulse of time. It's a moment that invites a slow, soft breath, a gentle stretch, and a quiet readiness for the unfolding of a new ancient day. You sometimes barely trust your phone to tell you the right time. The cool air is fresh against your skin, and the distant sounds of the nocturnal world are a soft, rhythmic hum. The deep blackness softens to a charcoal gray, and the faint outline of the high slit in the wall becomes just barely discernible, a thin, vertical line against the fading darkness. The air remains cool, but there's a subtle shift, a fresh, almost dewy scent that speaks of the coming morning, a gentle cleansing of the night. It's the moment of transition, when the world holds its breath between two vast cycles. You feel a profound sense of serenity, a quiet communion with the ancient past, as the world outside prepares for the dawn. It's a perfect moment to surrender to the deep embrace of slumber, letting the vast, unhurried flow of time carry you into dreams. It's a profound darkness, the kind that feels ancient and primal, utterly devoid of the artificial light pollution that often obscures the night sky in your own time. The empty upper vessel and the full lower basin are a quiet testament to the completion of a full cycle of measured time. The persistent chirping of crickets is slowly, almost reluctantly, receding, making way for the first hesitant calls of early morning birds, a soft, tentative chorus that will gradually swell with the rising sun. You might hear the distant, sleepy stirrings of livestock, a soft snort or a gentle bleat, signaling their gradual awakening. It's the quiet overture to a new day, a world slowly, gracefully stirring from its slumber, far less jarring than your average morning commute, which often sounds like a symphony of angry horn blowing. It's a remarkable piece of ancient technology, humble yet incredibly effective, allowing a complex society to navigate the mysteries of the night. You can almost feel the presence of the invisible forces it helped to tame, the passage of hours in the deepest darkness. Imagine trying to explain digital alarm clocks to someone who relies on a pottery drip. They'd probably just shake their head and offer you a nicer mat to sleep on. This is the true night, the kind that invites quiet contemplation or, more likely, a very deep and undisturbed sleep. The sounds from beyond the walls are now minimal, muted, dominated by the rhythmic, soothing chorus of crickets. The water clock, though silent, stands as a prominent silhouette in the gloom, its shape a familiar comfort. A significant historical fact concerns the very practical use of water clocks for night guards and watchmen in ancient Mesopotamian cities. These clocks provided a reliable means to divide the night into shifts, ensuring constant vigilance against threats and maintaining order during the darkest hours. Without them, a watchman's perception of time would have been far more subjective, making coordinated defense and patrolling much more challenging. They were, in essence, the original time cards, just without the annoying punch-in sound. An obscure cultural tidbit. Some researchers suggest that the steady, rhythmic dripping of the water clock itself might have had a meditative or hypnotic effect on those who observed it regularly, particularly during long night watches. The chamber is now completely dark, the deep stillness of the night wrapping around you like a heavy, comforting blanket. As the very first hint of dawn begins to paint the eastern sky, a subtle, almost imperceptible lightning occurs within the chamber. The sound from outside, though still primarily nocturnal, are beginning to change. You contemplate the water clock in the dim light, its silent form a promise of the day to come. A crucial aspect of Mesopotamian society, heavily influenced by their timekeeping, was their structured religious calendar. An obscure cultural tidbit. In some Mesopotamian astronomical texts, specific stars or constellations were assigned to particular watches of the night, complementing the water clock's measurement. The chamber is filled with the soft, ethereal light of pre-dawn, a quiet magic that makes the air feel thick with ancient secrets. The first tentative rays of the sun, now a pale, gentle silver, begin to penetrate the high slit in the wall, painting a thin, almost ethereal line of light across the chamber. The deep gray of pre-dawn slowly recedes, yielding to a soft, ethereal glow that highlights the dust motes with a renewed, albeit subdued, luminescence. The birdsong is more confident, a richer chorus, and you can hear the soft, deliberate movements of people beginning their morning routines. The distant bleating of sheep and goats is clearer, more numerous, as herds are stirred from their nighttime rest. The cyclical flooding and receding of these rivers dictated their agricultural calendar and, by extension, much of their daily life. Measured by the water clock may have influenced early storytelling, practices with narratives or poems being recited for the duration of a watch. Imagine a storyteller enchanting an audience for an entire dana, his voice punctuated by the steady drip of the clepsydra. Historians still debate the specific content of these potential watchtales and whether they were primarily didactic, religious, or purely entertainment. It's a lovely thought, isn't it? Time-based storytelling, long before podcasts were a twinkle in anyone's eye. The upper vessel, once empty, is now brimming with clear, cool water, its surface perfectly still, reflecting the golden light from the slit above. With the ability to measure precise equinoctial hours using water clocks, markets could operate on more predictable schedules. Labor could be organized more efficiently, and trade agreements could be made with greater certainty regarding delivery times. This contributed significantly to the complex urban economies that developed in Mesopotamia, moving beyond simple barter to more organized systems of exchange. Imagine trying to negotiate a bulk purchase of barley if you couldn't agree on what tomorrow morning actually meant. The first hesitant droplets are beginning to fall into the lower basin, starting the quiet, patient work anew. It's a profound moment of renewal, a physical manifestation of time beginning again, a fresh slate. It's a cycle that is repeated countless times over millennia, a quiet, continuous pulse linking past, present, and the future you now inhabit. This simple act of refilling feels more significant than clicking reset on a digital timer. The water clock, by providing consistent temporal units, allowed them to plan and coordinate activities around these vital natural cycles with greater precision. The cool air is invigorating, and the gentle sounds of the world awakening are a soothing balm. It's as if the very act of the water clock dripping was a small, tangible manifestation of the gods' ongoing work in shaping destiny. The rhythmic drip of the freshly refilled water clock has begun its soothing cadence, a steady hypnotic pulse that grounds you in this ancient moment. You feel a quiet sense of contentment, a peaceful immersion in the ongoing flow of history, as if your own internal clock has recalibrated to the patient, unhurried rhythms of this world. It's a moment that invites a slow, easy breath, a gentle settling into the timeless present. Historians still debate the precise, theological implications of these connections and whether specific daily rituals were performed to honor these deities in conjunction with timekeeping. It adds a fascinating layer of spiritual significance to what we might consider a purely scientific instrument. The dust motes dance energetically in the bright beams, like a million tiny particles of pure sunlight. The air is warmer still, dry and clean, carrying the faint, sweet scent of blooming desert plants, awakened by the morning sun. It's a vibrant, clear light that chases away any lingering shadows, inviting a sense of renewed purpose, albeit a very sleepy one. You feel a quiet sense of readiness, a peaceful alignment with the ancient rhythms of time, as if you, too, are preparing for a new, unhurried beginning. The rhythmic sound of grinding stones is back, steady and persistent. You can hear the distinct, higher-pitched chatter of children playing, their voices echoing cheerfully. The distant bleating of herds is now accompanied by the lowing of cattle, and the occasional whir of a potter's wheel might drift in, a quiet testament to craftsmanship. It's a bustling world, organized and purposeful, a testament to the routines established and maintained by, among other things, the steady, rhythmic measure of water clocks. It's a perfect moment for a gentle stretch, a slow, deep breath, and a quiet welcoming of the new ancient day. It was an extension of their mastery over water, a fluid power harnessed for societal benefit. You could say their entire civilization was built on good plumbing and even better time management. There might be the faint, resonant sound of an early morning prayer, a low chant carrying on the crisp air. It's the sound of ancient life renewing itself, a steady, unhurried rhythm that has resonated through millennia, far more harmonious than the jarring symphony of your modern alarm clock. The air is cool, fresh, and carries the invigorating scent of a new morning, mixed with the subtle, earthy aroma of damp clay and awakening flora. Its upper vessel remains empty, its lower basin full, a quiet tableau marking the end of one cycle and the imminence of the next. You imagine the person whose daily task it was to refill this vessel, perhaps just as the first rays of the sun touched the horizon. This act, simple yet profound, would have been a daily recommitment to the measurement of time, a deliberate decision to harness the flow of water to order their lives. It's a reminder that even the most advanced technologies begin with a humble, fundamental principle. They certainly didn't need a firmware update for this. It's a moment of profound beauty, a slow, gentle unveiling of the world. The sounds from beyond the walls are swelling now, the symphony of a new day gradually building. You are drawn to the water clock, standing in the gentle, nascent light. A significant historical fact, one that underpins the very existence of these timekeeping devices, is the Mesopotamians' profound connection to the Euphrates and Tigris rivers. An obscure cultural tidbit that is quite charming. Some scholars believe that the concept of watches or divisions of the night, the chamber is now bathed in the soft, hopeful light of dawn, a quiet promise of a new day. The sun, now fully risen, pours its golden light into the chamber through the high slit, painting the walls with a warm, pervasive glow. The sounds from beyond the walls are now in full swing, a symphony of ancient daily life. You observe the water clock, now you imagine, freshly refilled. A major historical fact to consider is the impact of standardized timekeeping on the economic life of Mesopotamian cities. An obscure cultural tidbit. Some ancient Mesopotamian myths and hymns occasionally feature deities associated with time, fate, and the flow of water, subtly linking the natural process of water flow to divine will. The chamber is now alive with the warm, vibrant light of morning, a comfortable, enveloping brightness. The morning light, now high and clear, streams into the chamber, filling every corner with a soft, dust-mottled radiance. The air is warm, dry, and surprisingly clean, carrying only the faintest scent of sun-baked earth and the subtle aroma of distant wood smoke, perhaps from morning cooking fires. It's a pure, unadulterated light, utterly devoid of the harsh glare of modern artificial illumination. You might notice, too, a curious freshness in the air, a sense of vitality that seems to permeate everything, as if the very atoms of the ancient world are brimming with a quiet, purposeful energy. The sounds from beyond the walls are steady, harmonious hum of activity, treating it as a highly specialized and respected skill. The gentle, rhythmic drip of the water clock is a constant, soothing presence, a subtle background hum that encourages a deep sense of calm. The high slit in the wall acts like a projector, painting a blazing rectangle of pure white light onto the floor, within which every dust mote appears to explode with microscopic brilliance. The air is warm, dry, and absolutely still, carrying the baked scent of clay and the faint, sweet perfume of sun-drenched earth. The water in the upper vessel has noticeably receded, revealing several of the etched lines, marking the passage of the morning hours. Mesopotamian priests and diviners would meticulously time celestial events, such as planetary conjunctions or the heliacal rising of stars, using water clocks to ensure the accuracy of their predictions about future events, harvests, or even royal destinies. The precision of their timekeeping directly impacted the perceived legitimacy and power of their religious and ruling elite. Basically, if your water clock was off, the gods might be very, very cross. The lower basin is steadily filling, its surface a calm, reflective mirror catching the bright light from above. Floating indicator or a mechanism that triggered a sound when a specific time interval was complete, signaling the end of a dana to a wider audience. This would have been the ancient equivalent of a public service announcement, just with less static. Historians still debate the prevalence and exact design of such auditory indicators and how widely they were deployed across different city-states. It's a charming thought, a gentle, periodic ding marking the passage of the day, far less annoying than your hourly news alerts. Each drop that falls is a tiny act of precision, a quiet triumph of engineering that allowed an ancient civilization to quantify the abstract. The rhythmic drip of the water clock, though steady, feels almost languid in the intense quiet, a persistent, soothing pulse. You feel a profound sense of peace, a quiet immersion in the timeless flow of history, as if the very air around you holds the accumulated quiet of centuries. It's a moment that invites a slow, deliberate breath, a gradual letting go, and a deep, comforting surrender to the ancient rhythm of time. It's truly impressive, considering they didn't even have access to a decent level, let alone CAD software. It's the intense, powerful light of high noon in ancient Mesopotamia, a light that demands respect and invites stillness. You feel utterly grounded in this moment, a quiet observer of history unfolding, unburdened by the usual pressures of time. It is a feeling that makes you want to settle down on that comfortable mat and simply exist, letting the slow, steady flow of the ancient world wash over you, lulling you into a state of profound relaxation. This suggests that the accuracy of timekeeping was not left to chance, but was entrusted to experts, much like we trust meteorologists, though perhaps with fewer dramatic weather warnings. Historians still debate the specific curriculum of such training and whether it involved formal schooling or apprenticeships. It is rather endearing to think of an ancient university course solely dedicated to advanced pot watching and dripping dynamics. The constant, rhythmic thump of the loom is a comforting background beat, punctuated by the occasional clang of a blacksmith's hammer from afar. You can distinctly hear the bleating of sheep and the lowing of cattle, closer now, perhaps being led out to pasture. And woven through it all is the continuous murmur of human voices, a tapestry of conversations and commands, rising and falling like the gentle waves of an ancient sea. The sharp clang of metal might be less frequent, and the human voices a little more subdued, as people seek shade and respite from the sun's direct intensity. You might hear the distant drowsy buzz of large insects, or the soft rustle of dry leaves stirred by a barely perceptible breeze. It's the sound of a world taking a collective breath, a quiet pause in the day's relentless rhythm, a period of rest that modern life, in its infinite wisdom, often forgets to include. No one here is stressing over whether they got their full 30-minute lunch break. It's a world where every sound has a purpose, a place in the symphony of daily life, unlike the random, jarring noises of your own time. You observe the water clock. The upper vessel, brimming with water, sends a steady stream of droplets into the lower basin, a tireless, consistent flow. You can almost feel the gentle pressure of the water as it pushes through the small spout, a subtle force harnessed by ancient ingenuity. The etched lines on the inner wall of the upper vessel are still largely submerged, waiting patiently to be revealed as the hours tick by. It's a beautifully simple, yet remarkably effective, piece of engineering, a silent testament to the Mesopotamians' grasp of hydrodynamics. One might even call it flow-tastic, if one were prone to ancient puns. A pivotal historical fact tied to the precision of these water clocks is their role in ancient legal and administrative systems. With accurate timekeeping, court proceedings could be scheduled, and the duration of testimonies or debates could be precisely measured. This brought a new level of order and fairness to legal processes, moving beyond rough estimates of time. It allowed for greater accountability and predictability in official functions, making the ancient Mesopotamian bureaucracy surprisingly efficient for its era. Imagine trying to argue a case if the judge kept losing track of time, though some days it feels like that still happens. An obscure cultural tidbit that adds a human touch. There is some evidence to suggest that professional scribes or temple officials were specifically trained in the calibration and maintenance of water clocks. The chamber is now utterly suffused with the tranquil light of a Mesopotamian morning. The sun, now at its zenith, casts a brilliant, almost stark light into the chamber. The sounds from outside, though still present, have mellowed slightly under the midday heat. You stand by the water clock, watching its steady, tireless work. A critical historical fact demonstrating the sophisticated application of water clocks is their use in astrological observations for prognostication and omen interpretation. An obscure cultural tidbit that adds a touch of ancient practicality. Some larger Mesopotamian water clocks, especially those in public spaces or temples, might have had a small. The chamber is now imbued with the heavy, still warmth of midday, a deep, encompassing heat that encourages absolute stillness. The sun begins its slow, deliberate descent from its midday peak, and the light in the chamber softens accordingly. The harsh, white rectangle on the floor mellows into a warmer, more diffused glow, its edges softening, hint of an approaching golden hour. The distant rhythmic thud of the loom might pick up speed again, and the murmur of human voices swells, perhaps with more animated conversations as people resume their tasks or engage in social interaction. You might hear the distant, joyous shouts of children as they play in the cooling air, or the gentle lowing of cattle returning to their pens. This suggests a widespread cultural awareness and importance placed on the measurement of time, even beyond its purely practical applications. The rhythmic drip of the water clock, though diminished by the overall brightness, continues its steadfast presence, a soothing pulse that grounds you in this ancient world. The air cools noticeably, carrying the refreshing scent of evening dew and the subtle, comforting aroma of distant cooking fires. The dust motes, once so visible, now seem to melt into the gathering shadows, their dance slowing to a languid drift. The upper vessel is now almost entirely empty, a few shimmering droplets clinging stubbornly to the spout, refusing to let go, before finally joining the collected waters below. The lower basin is full to the brim, a still, dark mirror reflecting the last vestiges of the fading light, a testament to a day fully measured. The silent, empty vessel above and the full one below are a poignant symbol of time's relentless, yet entirely natural, passage. It's a profound visual, far more eloquent than any digital display. It is the magical hour of twilight, when the day yields gracefully to the coming night, a soft, profound transition that invites quiet contemplation. They imbued this simple flow of water with profound meaning, using it to organize their lives, their religion, and their understanding of the cosmos. This humble clay pot, painstakingly crafted and diligently observed, was a cornerstone of their civilization, a quiet marvel of early engineering and intellectual curiosity. Feel the cool air whisper across your skin, carrying the scent of distant earth and the quiet promise of deep slumber. The rhythmic drip of the water clock, though now silent, echoes in your memory, a gentle metronome that has guided your journey through forgotten hours. Let the subtle hum of the crickets outside become a soft lullaby, drawing you deeper into peace. Your journey through ancient time is complete, a quiet exploration of ingenuity and the profound beauty of simple things. Release the worries of your own world, letting them drift away like dust motes in the fading light. Allow the peaceful, unhurried rhythms of Mesopotamia to lull you into a tranquil rest. Drift now into the quiet, boundless ocean of sleep, carried gently by the timeless currents of history. Sweet dreams. It allowed them to track not just hours and minutes, but the very pulse of their world, a rhythm that still resonates through the silent spaces of history. They truly had a handle on things, didn't they? And all without a single software patch. You feel a deep sense of peaceful engagement, a quiet connection to the people who once walked these floors, who relied on this very rhythm to navigate their lives. The last lingering drip from the water clock has ceased, leaving behind a profound, resonant silence. You feel a deep sense of calm washing over you, a quiet understanding of the timeless rhythms of existence. The soft sounds of the ancient world preparing for night fade into the background, becoming a gentle, distant hum. You are left with the lingering sense of earth and coolness, a sense of having journeyed through time, witnessed its quiet flow, and found a tranquil harbor in its midst. The distant chatter of voices softens, becoming a low, comforting murmur. The occasional bleat of a weary sheep or the soft lowing of a cattle settling for the night punctuates the growing stillness. The chirping of crickets, hesitant at first, begins to rise, a gentle, rhythmic chorus that will soon dominate the soundscape. It's the gentle winding down of a world, a slow, deliberate embrace of rest after a day of labor and life, a profound quiet that modern life rarely affords. No frantic last-minute emails, no blaring news alerts, just a peaceful surrender to the rhythms of nature. It's a remarkably peaceful realization, one that makes the prospect of a quiet, undisturbed rest seem incredibly appealing as the day winds down. Historians still debate the precise meaning of these depictions and whether they represent specific deities, astronomical events, or simply everyday life. It's a charming little glimpse into their visual world, where even the mundane could hold symbolic weight. It's the sound of a community gently re-engaging, a gradual reawakening that mirrors the steady, unhurried flow of the water clock itself. No sudden jolts, just a smooth transition, much like your ideal afternoon nap. The dust motes, once frenetic in their dance, now drift with a more leisurely pace, caught in the gentle currents of the afternoon air. The water level in the upper vessel has dropped significantly, revealing many more of the etched lines, clear markers of the passage of the afternoon hours. The lower basin is almost entirely full, a rich, dark pool reflecting the softening light. It's a silent, unwavering testament to the efficiency of ancient engineering, a simple pod accurately mapping the flow of time. It makes you wonder if anyone ever placed bets on which drop would be the last, or if they had an ancient equivalent of fantasy football, but with water clocks. The air remains warm and dry, but there's a subtle lessening of the oppressive heat, a hint of the day's eventual cooling. It's the sweet spot of the ancient day, where the intensity begins to yield to a more contemplative light. The sounds from beyond the walls are slowly re-emerging with renewed vigor as the world stirs from its midday respite. You approach the water clock, noting its continued, patient work. A significant historical fact concerns the pedagogical use of water clocks in ancient Mesopotamian scribal schools. Young scribes, the intellectual elite of their time, would have been taught the principles of timekeeping using these devices, understanding the mathematical and astronomical knowledge required for their calibration and use. This education was crucial for managing records, administering the vast temple and palace economies, and maintaining the complex calendar system. So, these humble water clocks were essentially ancient textbooks, patiently teaching the next generation about the very fabric of their temporal reality. An obscure cultural tidbit: some Mesopotamian cylinder seals, small carved stone cylinders used to roll impressions onto clay, occasionally depict figures interacting with what appear to be rudimentary timekeeping devices or celestial symbols. The chamber is now bathed in the gentle, deepening warmth of the late afternoon, a profound tranquility settling over the space. As the sun dips towards the horizon, the light in the chamber transforms, becoming a deep, burnished gold, painting the mud brick walls in rich, earthy tones. The sound from outside are gradually fading, settling into the familiar, gentle hum of an ancient evening. You stand by the water clock, its work for the day nearing its quiet conclusion. The ancient Mesopotamians, with their ingenious water clocks, found a way to tame the abstract, to give shape and form to the elusive concept of time. The chamber is now steeped in the deep, peaceful gloom of twilight, the air cool and still. As the last traces of daylight yield to the gentle embrace of the stars, let the ancient silence of this chamber settle around you, a soothing balm to mind and spirit.